Marcus Chen had always been considered a giant among humans at 7 feet 2 inches tall, but he never expected to be literally called one by actual aliens. The mining station on Kepler 442c was supposed to be a quiet assignment, extracting rare earth minerals from the planet's crust while avoiding contact with the indigenous wildlife that the surveys had classified as non-sentient arthropods. The morning started like any other in the asteroid belt mining facility. Marcus finished his shift operating the massive excavation mechs, his broad shoulders aching from 12 hours of precision work. The other miners often joked that he was built for this job, with hands large enough to manually adjust the smaller components when the automated systems failed. His gentle nature contrasted sharply with his imposing frame, earning him the nickname, Gentle Giant, among his crew. He was walking back to his quarters through the facility's main corridor when he heard it, a sound so faint he almost dismissed it as the station's usual mechanical hums. But, something about the pitch made him pause. It was almost musical, like tiny wind chimes caught in a breeze, but, with an urgency that made his instincts prickle. Marcus stopped and, crouched down, his keen hearing trying to locate the source. The sound came again, definitely not mechanical. He followed it to a service panel near the station's air recycling units, where the sound was clearest. Getting down on his hands and knees, he peered into the small maintenance space behind the panel. Two pairs of multifaceted eyes stared back at him, each no larger than a marble. The creatures they belonged to were unlike anything in the survey reports. Standing barely 3 inches tall, they resembled a cross between praying mantises and tiny humanoids, with delicate, translucent wings folded against their backs and 4 arms each. Their bodies shimmered with an iridescent quality that shifted between deep blues and purples as they moved. What struck Marcus most was their obvious distress. The tiny beings were clearly injured, one had a damaged wing that hung at an awkward angle, while the other supported its companion with 2 of its 4 arms. They looked up at him with what could only be described as hope mixed with terror. "Hey there, little ones," Marcus whispered, keeping his voice as soft as possible. "Are you hurt?" The uninjured alien made that wind chime sound again, more complex this time, almost like speech. Marcus realized with growing amazement that it was speech. The creature was trying to communicate with him. "I don't understand your language," he said gently, "but I can see you need help." The speaking alien gestured frantically with its free arms toward its injured companion, then, made a series of rapid sounds that conveyed urgency even without translation. Marcus could see a dark fluid, presumably blood, seeping from the injured one's wing. Without hesitation, Marcus carefully extended his hand, palm up, near the entrance to their hiding spot. "I want to help," he said softly. "Will you let me?" The aliens exchanged what appeared to be rapid conversation in their musical language. Marcus waited patiently, understanding that trust would have to be earned. These beings were clearly intelligent, and, from their perspective, he must appear as massive and, potentially threatening as a building. After several minutes of discussion, the uninjured alien helped its companion climb onto Marcus's palm. The weight was negligible, together they couldn't have weighed more than a few ounces, but Marcus felt the enormous responsibility of their trust. Their tiny hands gripped his thumb for stability, and he could feel the rapid flutter of what might have been heartbeats. "Okay," he murmured, rising slowly to his feet. "Let's get you somewhere safe where I can take a proper look at that wing." Marcus made his way carefully to his quarters, cupping his other hand protectively over the aliens to shield them from the corridor's bright lights and the curious stares of other miners. His room was modest but clean, with a workbench where he usually maintained his personal equipment. He cleared a space and gently lowered his hands to the surface. The aliens climbed off his palm and immediately began what appeared to be an animated discussion. The injured one tried to extend its damaged wing and winced, letting out a series of soft, pained sounds. Marcus's heart went out to them. "Let me see what I can do," he said, moving slowly to avoid startling them. He activated his personal tablet and began recording, thinking that someone back on Earth might want to see this first contact scenario. "I'm going to try to help with that wing, okay?" Marcus gathered what medical supplies he had, mostly basic first aid materials meant for human use. The antiseptic wipes were far too large, so he carefully cut tiny pieces from them. He found a small magnifying glass among his tools and positioned it to get a better look at the injury. The damage was more complex than he'd initially thought. The wing wasn't just torn, it appeared to have several small puncture wounds, and the delicate membrane was partially separated from the supporting structure. It would require precision work beyond anything Marcus had experience with. The uninjured alien seemed to understand his assessment. It approached the edge of the workbench and began speaking in its musical language, using elaborate gestures. After several attempts, it began drawing symbols on the dusty surface with one of its 4 hands. Marcus watched in fascination as a complex diagram took shape. It showed the wing structure in remarkable detail, with specific points highlighted, apparently indicating where repairs were needed. The alien then drew what appeared to be a molecular structure, pointing insistently at one particular compound. "You're showing me how to help," Marcus realized aloud. "You understand medicine, don't you? Your people have healing techniques." The alien nodded vigorously, apparently the gesture was universal, and continued its diagram. It drew what looked like a synthesis process, showing how certain elements could be combined to create a healing compound. Marcus studied the drawings carefully. While he couldn't read the alien symbols, the chemical structure looked similar to compounds he remembered from basic chemistry classes. With the station's fabrication unit, it might be possible to synthesize something close to what was being requested. "I'll need to get to the lab," he told them. "Can you wait here safely?" Both aliens seemed to understand. The injured one settled into a comfortable position while its companion continued working on the diagrams, apparently preparing more detailed instructions. Marcus made his way to the station's laboratory, his mind racing. This was supposed to be a simple mining operation, but he was now involved in first contact with an apparently advanced alien species. The discovery protocols required immediate notification of command, but something held him back. These beings had come to him for help, not to make contact with humanity as a whole. They deserved his protection. The lab's fabrication unit was designed for creating replacement parts and basic chemical compounds needed for station operations. Marcus input the molecular structure the alien had drawn, making his best guess at the proportions and bonds. The process took nearly an hour, during which he found himself constantly checking his chronometer and listening for anyone approaching. When the fabrication was complete, he had produced a small amount of a clear, slightly viscous fluid that matched the alien specifications as closely as possible. He also gathered micro-precision tools from the electronics repair station, thinking they might be useful for the delicate work ahead. Returning to his quarters, Marcus found both aliens waiting exactly where he'd left them. The injured one appeared weaker, its iridescent coloring somewhat faded. Time was clearly a factor. "I've got something that might help," he said, showing them the synthesized compound. "Is this what you needed?" The uninjured alien examined the fluid carefully, even going so far as to touch it with one tiny finger and, apparently taste it. After a moment, it nodded enthusiastically and began preparing its companion for treatment. What followed was unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. Using the precision tools he'd brought and, following the injured alien's own guidance, conveyed through gestures and simple drawings, he began the painstaking process of wing repair. The work required him to use the magnifying glass continuously, working with movements measured in millimeters to avoid causing additional damage. The healing compound proved to be remarkable. As soon as it was applied to the wounds, Marcus could see the tissue beginning to respond. The punctures started closing, and the separated wing membrane began reattaching itself to the support structure. The process was gradual but visibly effective. Throughout the procedure, both aliens maintained what appeared to be a running commentary in their musical language. Marcus found their voices oddly soothing, and he began to pick up on emotional nuances in their tones: gratitude, encouragement, and what sounded like amazement at his willingness to help. The repair work took several hours. Marcus's back ached from hunching over the workbench, and his eyes were strained from the detailed work, but he persisted. Several times the injured alien reached out with one of its tiny hands to touch his finger, as if offering reassurance or gratitude. When the immediate medical work was complete, Marcus sat back and rubbed his eyes. The injured alien's wing was still fragile, but the healing compound had done its job. The punctures were sealed, and the membrane was properly attached. With time, the wing should regain full function. "There," Marcus said softly. "How does that feel?" The alien carefully extended the repaired wing, testing its flexibility. Though still obviously tender, the appendage moved properly. The creature's iridescent coloring had returned to its normal intensity, and its multifaceted eyes seemed brighter. Both aliens began making rapid musical sounds that Marcus interpreted as excitement or joy. They approached the edge of the workbench nearest to him and began what appeared to be an elaborate ceremonial gesture, touching their four hands together in specific patterns while maintaining eye contact with him. "I think they're saying thank you," Marcus murmured, reaching out with one finger. Both aliens touched it simultaneously, and he felt a strange tingling sensation, not painful, but definitely unusual. The sensation intensified, and, suddenly, Marcus found himself understanding fragments of their communication. Not full translation, but emotional content and basic concepts were becoming clear. He realized that the touching gesture had established some kind of mental connection. Gratitude overwhelming debt honor friend protector giant kind heart strong hands healer. The concepts flooded his mind, not as words but as pure meaning. Marcus gasped and pulled his hand back, breaking the connection. Both aliens looked at him with what appeared to be concern. "Did you just share thoughts with me?" he asked, amazed. The uninjured alien nodded and gestured toward itself and its companion, then toward Marcus. It was clear that the mental link was intentional, a way of bridging the communication gap between their species. Marcus cautiously extended his finger again, and both aliens touched it. This time he was prepared for the sensation, and the flow of concepts was clearer. Names identity calling. The injured alien projected the concept of individual identity, followed by a complex musical phrase that Marcus somehow understood as its name. The sound was too intricate for him to reproduce, but the meaning came through as something like "Shimmerwind of the Eastern Peaks." The uninjured alien followed with its own identity, "Starweaver who dances in moonlight." Marcus tried to project his own name and identity back through the connection. The aliens received the information with what felt like pleased surprise. Large one Marcus of the patient hands came back to him, along with emotional overtones of respect and affection. Through the mental link, Marcus learned that the aliens were indeed twins, part of a scouting expedition for their people. They had been investigating human activity on their world when they encountered one of the automated mining drones that had malfunctioned and attacked them without provocation. Shimmerwind's injury had occurred during their escape, and they had been hiding in the station's infrastructure for days, afraid to reveal themselves. "Fear giants destroy hurt others like the metal hunters," Starweaver communicated, referring to the malfunctioned drone. Marcus felt a stab of guilt on behalf of his species. "We're not all like that," he projected back through the link. "Most humans would want to help, just like I do." "Hope doubt past experiences fear for people," came the reply, tinged with sadness. Apparently, this wasn't the first negative encounter their people had experienced with human technology. As the communication continued, Marcus learned more about their species, called the Zephyrians. They were an ancient race with a deep connection to their planet's ecosystem, living in elaborate cities built into the massive trees that dominated much of the world's surface. They possessed advanced biotechnology and had been observing human activity with growing concern about the environmental impact of the mining operations. Seeking understanding communication peaceful coexistence, Shimmerwind projected. Their mission had been to establish contact and negotiate some form of agreement that would allow both species to share the planet's resources without destroying the delicate ecological balance. Marcus realized the significance of what was happening. These weren't just two injured aliens he was helping, they were ambassadors for their entire species, and their experience with him could determine the future relationship between humans and Zephyrians. Honor, privilege, trust, responsibility, he projected back, trying to convey his understanding of the situation's importance. The twins shared what felt like relief and hope through the mental link. They had been prepared for hostility or indifference from the humans, but Marcus's immediate willingness to help without expecting anything in return had surprised them. As the hours passed, the three of them developed an increasingly sophisticated communication system. The mental link allowed for the transfer of complex concepts and emotions, while gestures and simple drawings helped convey specific technical or spatial information. Marcus learned that Zephyrian society was built around the principles of harmony and mutual aid. Their technology was largely biological, growing and shaping living organisms to serve their needs rather than constructing mechanical devices. They found human technology crude and potentially destructive, particularly the mining operations that were disrupting underground ecosystems they depended on. Show understanding, trust, hope, possible bridge, Star Weaver communicated, and Marcus realized they were asking him to help facilitate broader contact between their species. The request was enormous. As a simple mining technician, Marcus had no authority to negotiate on behalf of humanity, and he wasn't sure how his supervisors would react to learning about the Zephyrians. The standard protocols for first contact situations were designed for formal diplomatic scenarios, not for relationships that began with medical aid in a maintenance corridor. Think time, consider careful, important, he projected back, asking for time to process the implications. Both aliens radiated understanding and patience. They seemed to recognize that this decision couldn't be rushed, and that Marcus needed to consider the potential consequences for all three species involved. As the station's night cycle began, Marcus realized that his new friends would need a safe place to stay while Shimmerwind continued recovering. His quarters were secure, but he couldn't keep their presence hidden indefinitely. Someone would eventually notice his unusual behavior or discover them during routine maintenance. Safe place, healing time needed, Shimmerwind communicated, apparently thinking along the same lines. Marcus considered his options. The station had several unused storage areas that were rarely accessed, and he could modify his environmental control access codes to provide appropriate atmosphere and temperature for the aliens. It would require some careful planning, but it was doable. Temporary hiding place, prepare safety, he projected, outlining his plan. The twins responded with gratitude and offered to help with the preparations. Despite their small size, they possessed detailed knowledge of the station's infrastructure from their days of hiding, and they could access areas that would be impossible for a human to reach. Over the next few hours, Marcus and the Zephyrian twins worked together to create a hidden refuge in one of the station's secondary storage compartments. Using spare equipment and supplies, they fashioned a comfortable living space scaled to the aliens' needs, complete with environmental controls and a communication system that would allow them to contact Marcus if needed. The work gave Marcus time to observe his new friends more closely. Despite their arthropod-like appearance, their behavior and expressions were surprisingly familiar. They showed affection for each other, curiosity about human technology, and a sense of humor that translated well even across species barriers. Starweaver particularly enjoyed examining Marcus's personal belongings, while Shimmerwind demonstrated a keen interest in the technical aspects of the station's systems. By the end of the night cycle, the hidden refuge was complete, and Shimmerwind's wing had healed enough for limited movement. Both aliens seemed much more relaxed, and Marcus felt a growing sense of connection to them that went beyond the mental link they shared. Friendship bond, trust growing, Starweaver communicated as they prepared to part for the day cycle. Marcus nodded, touching their offered hands one more time before they retreated to their new hiding place. Same feelings, honor, help always, he projected back. As he finally settled into his bed for some much-needed rest, Marcus realized that his life had changed fundamentally in the space of a single day. He was no longer just a mining technician on a routine assignment, he had become the bridge between two species that desperately needed to understand each other. The responsibility was daunting, but as he drifted off to sleep, Marcus felt a sense of purpose that had been missing from his life for years. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and difficult decisions, but tonight he was content knowing that two remarkable beings were safe because he had chosen to help rather than ignore their need. In his dreams, he heard the musical voices of the Zephyrians, and, for the first time in his adult life, Marcus Chen felt like he was exactly where he belonged. Marcus woke to the sound of his communicator buzzing with an urgent message. Station Commander Williams wanted to see him immediately in the operations center. As he quickly dressed and made his way through the corridors, Marcus felt a knot of anxiety forming in his stomach. Had someone discovered the Zephyrians? Were there questions about his activities in the lab yesterday? The operations center buzzed with unusual activity. Multiple displays showed aerial reconnaissance footage from the planet's surface, and several department heads clustered around the main tactical table. Commander Williams, a stern woman in her 50s with graying hair and sharp blue eyes, looked up as Marcus entered. "Chen, good. We need your expertise with the excavation systems," she said briskly. "We've got a problem." Marcus approached the tactical display, relieved that this seemed to be about his actual job rather than his secret guests. The footage showed one of their primary mining sites, but something was clearly wrong. Where there should have been organized excavation patterns, the cameras revealed a chaotic landscape of twisted metal and damaged earth. "What happened?" Marcus asked, studying the imagery. "Three of our heavy excavation drones went haywire yesterday evening," explained Chief Engineer Rodriguez. "They started attacking each other and tearing up the mining site. By the time the automated shutdown protocols kicked in, they'd caused significant damage to both equipment and the extraction infrastructure." Marcus examined the footage more closely. The destruction looked deliberate rather than random, as if the drones had been programmed to target specific systems. More troubling was the pattern of damage. It seemed designed to disrupt not just the mining operation, but also the environmental monitoring sensors that tracked the impact of their activities. "Have you determined what caused the malfunction?" he asked. Commander Williams shook her head grimly. "That's what we need you to figure out. You know these systems better than anyone, and, frankly, we can't afford many more incidents like this. Corporate is already breathing down our neck about efficiency ratings." Marcus nodded, but his mind was racing beyond the technical problem. Through his connection with the Zephyrian twins, he'd learned about their people's concerns regarding human mining activities. Could this incident be related to Zephyrian intervention? Were there others of their kind working to sabotage human operations? Need information understanding truth, he thought to himself, wishing he could consult with Shimmerwind and Star Weaver immediately. "I'll need to examine the damaged drones directly," Marcus said aloud. "Can you arrange transportation to the surface?" "Already scheduled," Rodriguez replied. "Transport leaves in 2 hours. Take whatever technical support you need." Marcus spent the next hour gathering diagnostic equipment and preparing for the surface mission. More importantly, he found a way to briefly visit the hidden refuge where his alien friends were staying. The twins were awake and apparently engaged in what looked like morning exercises, a series of graceful, synchronized movements that incorporated all 4 of their arms and their recovering wings. They stopped when Marcus appeared, radiating welcome and concern through their mental link. "Worry tension problem questions," Shimmerwind communicated, clearly sensing Marcus's emotional state. Marcus quickly explained the situation with the damaged mining drones, sharing his suspicions about possible Zephyrian involvement. The twins' reaction was immediate and complex: surprise, concern, and what felt like confirmation of his fears. "Others protect defend desperate measures," Star Weaver communicated. "Not planned coordination individual action." Through the mental link, Marcus learned that there were indeed other Zephyrians operating around the human mining sites. However, they weren't part of a coordinated sabotage campaign. Rather, individual Zephyrians had been taking increasingly desperate actions to protect critical ecosystems that the mining operations were threatening. "Young ones' angry impatient elders seek peace," Shimmerwind explained. Division among people, different approaches. Marcus realized he was looking at a scenario far more complex than simple first contact. The Zephyrian society was apparently divided on how to handle the human presence, with younger, more militant members taking direct action while the older leadership sought diplomatic solutions. Dangerous situation, escalation, possible harm both peoples, he communicated back, understanding that the situation could spiral into open conflict if not handled carefully. Yes, fear this outcome, hope, bridge, understanding. Both twins responded simultaneously, their mental voices overlapping in a harmony that conveyed deep emotional resonance. Marcus made a decision that would have seemed impossible just days earlier. Come with me, he said quietly. I need you to see what's happening on the surface, and I think it's time for your people to understand that not all humans are their enemy. The twins exchanged rapid communication in their musical language before responding through the mental link. Trust you, risk exposure, danger, worth attempt. Getting 2 3-inch aliens aboard a transport shuttle without detection required creative thinking. Marcus fashioned a secure carrying case from a modified tool container, padding it carefully and providing air circulation. The twins could communicate with him through the mental link even while hidden, so they would know what was happening around them. The shuttle ride to the planet's surface gave Marcus time to think about what he was attempting. He was essentially conducting unauthorized first contact diplomacy while investigating what could be acts of alien sabotage. The potential for catastrophe was enormous, but so was the possibility of preventing a conflict that could devastate both species. Confidence, doubt, fear, hope together came through the mental link from his hidden passengers, apparently reflecting the same complex emotions Marcus was experiencing. The mining site was worse than the footage had suggested. 3 massive excavation drones, each the size of a building, lay twisted and broken across the excavation field. The damage wasn't random, critical systems had been targeted with precision that suggested intimate knowledge of human technology. Marcus began his inspection with the lead engineer from the day shift, a competent woman named Sarah Kim who had worked with the drones for over 5 years. As they examined the wreckage, Marcus discreetly allowed the twins to observe through small gaps in their carrying case. Recognize patterns, familiar techniques, young warrior, Stormwing, Star Weaver communicated with what felt like resignation. The damage patterns are interesting, Marcus said aloud to Sarah, while processing the information from his alien friends. This wasn't random malfunction. Someone or something deliberately targeted these specific systems. Sarah nodded grimly. That's what I thought too, but who could have done it? And how? The drones were operating normally right up until they went berserk. Through the mental link, Marcus learned that the Zephyrian responsible for the sabotage was named Stormwing, a young warrior who specialized in biotechnology and had apparently found ways to interface with human electronic systems. The twins painted a picture of someone driven by genuine concern for their ecosystem but lacking the patience for diplomatic solutions. Stormwing believes only strength stops destruction, Shimmerwind communicated sadly. Lost family, previous expansion, mining operations. Marcus felt a stab of empathy for the unknown Zephyrian. From their perspective, humans were invaders destroying their world, and diplomatic solutions probably seemed like pointless delays while the damage continued. As the investigation continued, Marcus made careful observations about the mining site's impact on the local environment. What he saw troubled him. The human surveys had clearly missed the complexity of the underground ecosystem. Delicate root networks that were probably part of larger biological systems had been severed, and unusual crystalline formations that might have been living structures were scattered throughout the excavated areas. Heartache, seeing destruction, understanding Stormwing, anger, the twins communicated, sharing their emotional response to seeing the damage to their world. Marcus realized that both sides in this conflict had legitimate concerns. Humans needed the rare earth minerals for their technology, but their extraction methods were inadvertently destroying ecosystems they didn't even know existed. The Zephyrians had every right to defend their world, but sabotage would only escalate tensions and potentially lead to military responses from human colonial authorities. Need meeting, communication, understanding before too late, Marcus projected through the mental link. Agree, but how Stormwing, others not trust giants after destruction, Starweaver responded. Marcus considered the problem as he continued his technical investigation. Traditional first contact protocols assumed roughly equal power dynamics between species, but this situation was radically different. Humans had overwhelming technological and physical advantages, while Zephyrians had intimate knowledge of their world and the ability to disrupt human operations in ways that would be difficult to counter. What was needed was a demonstration that humans could be trusted to change their behavior when presented with new information. Marcus needed to show both species that cooperation was possible and mutually beneficial. Sarah, he said suddenly, I want to run some additional environmental scans of this area. There might be factors we haven't considered that could explain the drone malfunctions. Sarah looked puzzled. Environmental factors. These were clearly deliberate attacks on the systems. Maybe, Marcus said carefully, but what if something in the local ecosystem was interfering with the drone's programming? We should rule out all possibilities before concluding we're dealing with sabotage. It was a thin excuse, but it gave Marcus the cover he needed to begin documenting the environmental damage that the twins were helping him identify. Through the mental link, they guided his attention to critical ecosystem connections that human sensors had missed entirely. Underground network communication nutrients life support broken here, Shimmer Wind projected, essentially giving Marcus a map of the biological infrastructure that the mining operations had damaged. As Marcus recorded data about the previously unknown ecosystem, he began developing the framework for a proposal that could address both species' needs. The Zephyrians' biotechnology might be able to help humans extract minerals without destroying the underlying biological networks, while human manufacturing capability could potentially help the Zephyrians develop new tools for ecosystem management. Possible cooperation mutual benefit hope skeptical, Starweaver communicated when Marcus shared his emerging ideas through the mental link. The afternoon's work provided Marcus with detailed documentation of the environmental impact and the sophisticated biological systems that humans had been unknowingly destroying. More importantly, it gave him the beginning of a plan for bringing both species together in a way that acknowledged their respective strengths and needs. As the survey mission concluded and they prepared to return to the orbital station, Marcus made another critical decision. Instead of returning directly to his quarters, he requested permission to continue working in the main laboratory that evening, claiming he needed to analyze the environmental data more thoroughly. Commander Williams granted the request, and Marcus found himself alone in the station's primary research facility with advanced analytical equipment and 2 alien ambassadors who were eager to contribute their knowledge to finding a peaceful solution. Time-limited opportunity maximum effort, the twins communicated as Marcus carefully released them from their carrying case in the secure laboratory environment. What followed was unlike anything in the history of interspecies cooperation. Working together through their mental link, Marcus and the Zephyrian twins began developing a comprehensive analysis of the mining site's ecosystem and the impact of human activities. The twins' biotechnological knowledge combined with human analytical tools produced insights that neither species could have achieved alone. Beautiful cooperation minds together possibilities endless, Shimmerwind communicated as they worked, expressing wonder at the collaborative potential between their species. Marcus felt the same sense of amazement. The twins were able to identify biological processes that human science didn't even have names for, while his technical knowledge helped them understand human capabilities and limitations in ways they'd never considered. They discovered that the Zephyrian ecosystem operated on principles of integrated biotechnology that made their entire world essentially a single, vast living organism. The mining operations weren't just extracting minerals, they were inadvertently performing surgery on a planetary-scale biological system, causing cascading damage throughout interconnected networks. Explain this understanding humans can comprehend change approach, Starweaver projected hopefully. Marcus was less optimistic about human flexibility, but the scientific data they were generating was undeniable. Any reasonable person presented with this information would have to acknowledge that current mining practices were unsustainable and, ultimately self-defeating. More importantly, the twins were helping him identify alternative extraction methods that could work with rather than against the biological systems. Zephyrian biotechnology included techniques for mineral concentration and purification that could dramatically reduce the environmental footprint of human operations while potentially increasing efficiency. Show techniques share knowledge trust bridge building, both twins communicated simultaneously. As the evening progressed, Marcus realized they were creating more than just environmental data, they were developing the foundation for a new kind of interspecies relationship based on mutual knowledge sharing and collaborative problem solving. The work was interrupted by an urgent communication from the planet's surface. Emergency signals from the mining site indicated that another major incident was in progress. Multiple systems were failing simultaneously across all active excavation zones, and preliminary reports suggested coordinated attacks on critical infrastructure. Stormwing others escalating response fear time running out, the twins communicated with obvious distress. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. The young Zephyrian warriors were apparently moving beyond isolated sabotage to more systematic disruption of human operations. If the pattern continued, it would inevitably provoke a military response from human colonial authorities. Must act now before point no return, he projected through the mental link, making the decision that would define the rest of his life. The twins responded with determination and trust that humbled him. Together attempt peace risk everything trust giant friend. Marcus began gathering the environmental data and collaborative research they had produced, preparing to present it to Commander Williams along with a proposal that would either prevent an interspecies war or end his career in spectacular failure. More importantly, he was preparing to reveal the existence of his alien friends and ask them to trust their lives to human judgment and goodwill. Ready trust hope future both peoples, came through the mental link as the twins prepared for what could be the most important first contact meeting in galactic history. The next few hours would determine whether two species would find a way to share a world in harmony or destroy each other in a conflict that neither could truly win. Marcus Chen, mining technician turned unofficial ambassador, was about to discover if one human's choice to help two injured aliens could really change the fate of entire civilizations. Marcus stood outside Commander Williams's office, the sealed container holding his alien friends tucked carefully in his equipment bag, while his other hand gripped a data tablet containing the most important research in human history. The corridor seemed longer than usual, and each step toward the door felt like walking toward either salvation or catastrophe for two entire species. Courage friend Marcus trust wisdom judgment, Shimmer Wind and Star Weaver communicated simultaneously through their mental link, their combined mental voice providing strength he desperately needed. The door chimed as Marcus approached, and Commander Williams's voice called him in. She was studying multiple display screens showing the latest reports from the planet's surface, her expression grim. 3 more mining sites had experienced coordinated equipment failures overnight, and the pattern was becoming impossible to ignore. Chen, tell me you have answers, she said without looking up. Corporate is demanding explanations, and, frankly, I'm running out of theories that don't involve organized sabotage. Marcus took a deep breath, knowing that the next few minutes would change everything. Commander, I have answers, but they're not what anyone expected. I need you to listen to everything I have to say before making any decisions. Something in his tone made Williams look up sharply. She studied his face with the practiced eye of someone who had commanded frontier operations for over 2 decades. This sounds like more than a technical briefing, Chen. What have you discovered? The sabotage is real, Marcus began, but it's not random terrorism or criminal activity. We're dealing with an indigenous species trying to protect their ecosystem from what they perceive as an existential threat. Williams's expression shifted from concern to skepticism. Chen, the surveys were comprehensive. There are no sentient species on this planet. We have arthropods and some complex plant life, nothing more. Marcus carefully reached into his equipment bag and withdrew the container holding the twins. Commander, I'd like you to meet Shimmer Wind and Star Weaver, ambassadors from the Zephyrian people. The silence that followed was deafening. William stared at the container as Marcus carefully opened it, revealing 2 tiny, iridescent beings who looked up at her with multifaceted eyes that clearly showed intelligence and awareness. Greetings Leader Williams hope peace understanding, the twins communicated through the mental link to Marcus, who felt the formal dignity of their mental voice despite their diminutive size. "My God," Williams whispered, leaning forward to get a better look. "They're real. They're actually real." "More than real," Marcus said, helping the twins climb onto his palm where Williams could see them clearly. "They're remarkably intelligent, technologically advanced in ways we're just beginning to understand, and they've been trying to find a peaceful solution to the conflict that our presence has created." Williams activated the privacy mode for her office, sealing it from any outside observation or recording. Years of military training kicked in as she processed the implications of what she was seeing. "How long have you known about this?" 3 days, Marcus admitted. "They were injured by a malfunctioned mining drone and came to me for help. Commander, what I'm about to show you changes everything we think we know about this planet and our operations here." Over the next hour, Marcus presented the collaborative research he and the twins had conducted. The environmental data revealed the true complexity of the Zephyrian ecosystem, while the twins themselves demonstrated their biotechnology through direct communication with the station's biological systems. "Show understanding possible cooperation," Starweaver communicated to Marcus, who placed both twins near the office's environmental control panel. Williams watched in amazement as the tiny aliens interfaced directly with the biological components of the station's air recycling system, not damaging anything but clearly demonstrating their ability to understand and communicate with living systems in ways that human science couldn't match. "They can optimize our life support efficiency by 30%, Marcus explained as the twins finished their demonstration. "And that's just the beginning. Their knowledge of biological systems could revolutionize how we approach everything from medicine to manufacturing." William sat back in her chair, the full weight of the situation settling on her shoulders. "And, in return, they want to stop the destruction of their ecosystem," Marcus said simply. "The mining operations are damaging biological networks that took their people thousands of years to cultivate. It's not just environmental damage, we're accidentally destroying the infrastructure of their entire civilization." Through the mental link, Marcus felt the twins' quiet gratitude for his clear explanation of their position. They understood that Williams was a key decision-maker and that her response could determine the fate of any peaceful resolution. "Respect Leader Williams, understand difficulty, position hope, wisdom," they communicated, and Marcus relayed their thoughts. Williams studied the environmental data more carefully, her expression growing increasingly troubled. "This biological network, how extensive is it?" "Planet-wide," Marcus replied. "The Zephyrians have been bioengineering their entire world for millennia. What we thought were natural ecosystems are actually sophisticated technological systems that provide everything from communication networks to resource distribution. Our mining operations have been inadvertently performing surgery on a living planetary infrastructure." The commander was quiet for several minutes, processing the implications. As a military officer, she understood strategic situations, and this was unlike anything in her experience. Humans had overwhelming technological superiority in terms of raw power, but they were operating in complete ignorance of the true nature of the environment around them. "What are you proposing, Chen?" she finally asked. Marcus had been preparing for this question since he first understood the scope of the situation. "A joint research initiative. The Zephyrians have biotechnology that could revolutionize our operations and reduce environmental impact to nearly zero. In exchange, we share our manufacturing and materials science knowledge to help them develop new tools for ecosystem management. Hope skeptical humans capable change cooperation," Shimmerwind communicated privately to Marcus, expressing the doubts that many of their people harbored about human flexibility. "It's not that simple," Williams said, apparently reading the complexity of the situation in Marcus's expression. "Even if I agree to this approach, I'm answering to corporate executives and colonial administrators who see only profit margins and extraction quotas. They're not going to be interested in revolutionary changes to established procedures." Marcus nodded grimly. He'd expected this obstacle. "Then, we demonstrate the benefits in terms they can understand. The twins have shown me extraction techniques that could triple our efficiency while reducing equipment costs by eliminating the environmental damage that keeps destroying our machinery. To support his claim, Marcus activated his data tablet and showed Williams the preliminary analysis of Zephyrian biotechnology applications. The economic projections were remarkable: reduced equipment replacement costs, lower environmental remediation expenses, and dramatically increased extraction efficiency. Truth showing mutual benefit possible. Hope greed overrides fear. Starweaver communicated with what Marcus was learning to recognize as Zephyrian humor. Williams studied the projections with the eye of someone who had spent years justifying frontier operations to cost-conscious bureaucrats. These numbers, if they're accurate, corporate would be very interested. But, I need more than projections. I need proof. Marcus felt a surge of hope. This was exactly the opening he'd been hoping for. "Give me 72 hours, he said. "Let me work with the twins to develop a practical demonstration of the technology. Meanwhile, I need you to delay any military response to the sabotage incidents." "Chen, I don't have authority to negotiate with alien species," Williams said carefully. "This is far beyond anything covered by our operational protocols. You have authority to investigate new technologies that could improve operational efficiency," Marcus countered. "Treat this as a research project until we know whether the technology is viable. As for the sabotage, if I can arrange a meeting with the responsible parties, would you be willing to hear their concerns?" Williams was quiet for a long moment, weighing risks and possibilities. Through the mental link, Marcus could feel the twins' tension as they waited for her decision. 72 hours, she finally said. "But, Chen, if this goes wrong, it's not just your career on the line. We could be looking at colonial military intervention, and that would be catastrophic for everyone involved. Understand stakes, commitment, peace, risk, everything," the twins communicated, and Marcus relayed their acknowledgement of the situation's gravity. As the meeting concluded, Williams made arrangements for Marcus to have access to all the research facilities he needed, while maintaining complete secrecy about the true nature of his work. To the rest of the station, he would be conducting advanced analysis of the sabotage incidents and developing new environmental monitoring protocols. The next 48 hours were unlike anything in Marcus's life. Working around the clock with Shimmerwind and Starweaver, he gained access to biological technologies that seemed like magic but operated according to principles that human science could understand and replicate. The twins introduced him to biotechnology that could literally reshape matter at the molecular level. Living organisms engineered by Zephyrian science could extract specific minerals from complex ores with precision that no mechanical system could match, while simultaneously healing any damage to surrounding biological networks. Ancient knowledge, careful development, generations, cooperation, now sharing hope, Shimmerwind communicated as they worked together to adapt Zephyrian biotechnology for human use. More importantly, Marcus learned that the twins had been in communication with other Zephyrians throughout their time on the station. Through biological communication networks that operated beneath human detection, they had been reporting on their experiences and gradually building support for diplomatic solutions among their people. Stormwing, others willing listen if proof humans change possible, Starweaver explained. The young warriors who had been conducting sabotage operations were willing to consider cooperation, but they needed concrete evidence that humans could adapt their behavior. Marcus realized that his demonstration would be observed not just by Commander Williams and human decision-makers, but by the entire Zephyrian leadership structure. The pressure was enormous, but so was the opportunity to prevent what could become a devastating conflict. The breakthrough came during the second night of intensive work. Using a combination of Zephyrian biotechnology and human materials science, Marcus and the twins developed a hybrid extraction system that could process ore with efficiency that exceeded anything in human technology while operating in complete harmony with surrounding biological systems. Success, cooperation, proof possible, hope. Both twins communicated simultaneously, their mental voices harmonizing in a way that conveyed joy and relief. The demonstration unit was small, about the size of Marcus's hand, but it could process raw ore samples and extract pure minerals while simultaneously analyzing and supporting the biological networks in the surrounding material. More impressive was its self-repair capability. The biotechnological components could diagnose and fix damage automatically, essentially eliminating maintenance requirements. As the 60-hour mark approached, Marcus prepared for the most important presentation of his life. Commander Williams had arranged for a secure video conference with key personnel from corporate headquarters and colonial administration, while the twins coordinated with Zephyrian leadership to ensure their people were also represented in whatever decisions emerged from the meeting. Together trust hope future both species, the twins communicated as they prepared for what could be their species' first formal diplomatic contact with humanity. Marcus felt the weight of history settling on his shoulders as he made final preparations. 3 days ago he had been a simple mining technician helping 2 injured aliens. Now he was about to either broker the first peaceful interspecies cooperation agreement in human history or witness the beginning of a war that neither side could truly win. The next few hours would determine whether one human's choice to help had indeed changed the fate of 2 civilizations, or whether fear and misunderstanding would triumph over the possibility of cooperation and mutual growth. Ready friend Marcus together face future, came through the mental link, and Marcus felt the courage to step into a room where the destiny of 2 worlds would be decided. The station's main conference room had been transformed into something unprecedented in human history, the site of formal first contact negotiations. Multiple screens displayed participants joining from Earth's colonial headquarters, while sophisticated recording equipment documented every moment for historical archives. Marcus stood at the head of the conference table, the hybrid extraction device before him, while Shimmerwind and Starweaver waited in a specially prepared presentation area that would allow them to be clearly visible to all participants. Commander Williams opened the session with military precision, introducing the participants and establishing the gravity of the situation. On the main screen, Marcus could see Director Sarah Chen of Colonial Operations, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s who had built her career on efficiency and results. Beside her appeared Dr. James Wright, the head of the Xenobiology department, whose expression showed barely contained excitement at the prospect of first contact. Before we begin, Williams said, I want everyone to understand that what you're about to witness has the potential to fundamentally change humanity's approach to interstellar colonization. Mr. Chen will present his findings, but I want to emphasize that we're not just discussing mining efficiency, we're looking at the foundation for peaceful coexistence with an indigenous species. Director Chen's expression was skeptical but attentive. Corporate executives were accustomed to ambitious claims from frontier operations, but the security classification surrounding this meeting suggested something genuinely extraordinary. Marcus took a deep breath and began. 3 days ago, I encountered 2 members of an indigenous species that our surveys failed to detect. They were injured by one of our malfunctioning drones and came to me for help. What I've learned since then changes everything we thought we knew about this planet and our operations here. He gestured toward the twins, who stood with the dignified bearing of formal ambassadors despite their tiny size. Through the mental link, Marcus could feel their mixture of hope and apprehension as they faced their first direct contact with human leadership. Honor representing people, hope understanding, fear rejection, they communicated, and Marcus felt the weight of their trust in his ability to bridge the vast gap between species. Shimmerwind and Starweaver are biotechnology specialists and diplomatic representatives of the Zephyrian people, Marcus continued. Their species has been developing this planet's ecosystem for thousands of years, creating a planetary-scale biological network that our mining operations have been inadvertently damaging. Dr. Wright leaned forward on the screen, his scientific curiosity overcoming protocol concerns. The arthropod readings in our surveys, they weren't just random wildlife, were they? Correct understanding beginning, Starweaver communicated to Marcus, who nodded. The life forms we classified as non-sentient arthropods are actually the Zephyrian people in their various developmental stages and occupational specializations. What we thought was a simple ecosystem is actually a sophisticated civilization with biotechnology that far exceeds our current capabilities. Marcus activated the demonstration unit, which began processing a sample of raw ore while the conference participants watched. The hybrid device worked with fluid grace, separating minerals with precision while simultaneously analyzing and supporting the biological components of the sample material. This device combines Zephyrian biotechnology with human materials science, Marcus explained. It processes ore with 3 times the efficiency of our current methods while operating in complete harmony with surrounding biological systems. More importantly, it's essentially self-maintaining and self-repairing. Director Chen studied the efficiency readings with the focused attention of someone calculating profit margins. What are the production costs compared to our current methods? Marcus had prepared for this question carefully. Initial setup costs are higher because of the biotechnology integration, but operating costs are dramatically lower. No equipment replacement due to environmental damage, minimal energy requirements, and automated maintenance. The economic analysis suggests a 40% reduction in total operational expenses within the first year. Hope, greed, motivation, understanding humans, Shimmerwind communicated privately, and Marcus detected amusement in their mental voice. The real breakthrough came when the twins demonstrated their ability to interface directly with human computer systems. With Marcus's help translating their intentions, they accessed the station's environmental monitoring network and provided real-time analysis of biological systems throughout the facility. They're not just offering us their biotechnology, Marcus explained as data flowed across the conference room displays. They're offering partnership. Their knowledge of biological systems combined with our manufacturing capabilities could revolutionize everything from medicine to space travel. Dr. Wright was practically vibrating with excitement. The implications for xenobiology alone, but, Marcus, what do they want in return? Through the mental link, Marcus felt the twins' appreciation for the direct question. Respect, honesty, basis, cooperation, they communicated. They want us to stop destroying their ecosystem, Marcus said simply. The mining operations are damaging biological networks that took thousands of years to develop. But, they're not asking us to leave, they're proposing a cooperative approach that would allow both species to benefit. Director Chen's skepticism was evident. Mr. Chen, these are remarkable claims, but I need to understand the broader implications. Are we looking at a potential military situation? How many of these Zephyrians are there? Marcus had been dreading this question because he knew the answer would terrify human leadership. Through his connection with the twins, he'd learned that Zephyrian civilization included millions of individuals distributed throughout complex biological networks across the entire planet. There are millions of Zephyrians, he said carefully, but they're not organized for military conflict in any way we would recognize. Their society is built around ecological harmony and mutual cooperation. The sabotage incidents have been conducted by young individuals acting without broader coordination, essentially, desperate attempts to protect critical ecosystems. Truth, important, fear, understanding, basis, trust, the twins communicated, supporting his decision to be completely honest about the scope of their civilization. Commander Williams stepped in to address the security concerns. Director Chen, based on my analysis of the sabotage incidents and Mr. Chen's intelligence about Zephyrian capabilities, a military approach would be counterproductive. They have intimate knowledge of every system on this planet and the ability to disrupt our operations in ways we can't effectively counter. More importantly, they're offering cooperation rather than demanding our withdrawal. The discussion continued for hours, with participants joining from various Earth institutions as word of the first contact situation spread through classified channels. Marcus found himself serving as translator and advocate, helping human leaders understand Zephyrian perspectives while conveying the twins' growing understanding of human motivations and concerns. The turning point came when Dr. Elena Vasquez from the Earth Biotechnology Institute joined the conference. As one of humanity's leading experts on biological systems, she immediately grasped the revolutionary implications of Zephyrian biotechnology. Mr. Chen, she said after reviewing the technical data, what you're describing could solve some of humanity's most pressing technological challenges. Biological systems that can process materials at the molecular level, self-repairing infrastructure, organisms that can function in space environments, the applications are limitless. Recognition Value Knowledge Hope Partnership, Shimmerwind communicated, clearly pleased by Dr. Vasquez's immediate understanding of the potential benefits. Marcus seized on the opportunity. Dr. Vasquez is correct. But, this isn't just about technology transfer. The Zephyrians have offered to share their knowledge of ecosystem management, which could help us develop sustainable colonization methods for other worlds. They're essentially offering to teach us how to establish human settlements without destroying the environments that support them. The implications were staggering. Humanity's expansion into space had been limited by the enormous costs of creating self-sustaining colonies and the environmental damage that typically accompanied resource extraction. Zephyrian biotechnology could enable a completely different approach to interstellar civilization. Director Chen was beginning to show genuine interest rather than mere skepticism. What would be required to implement this cooperative approach? Marcus looked toward the twins, who had been following the conversation with remarkable attention considering they were processing everything through their mental link with him. Ready propose formal agreement hope acceptance, they communicated. The Zephyrians propose a joint research facility, Marcus said. Human and Zephyrian scientists working together to develop hybrid technologies. In exchange for access to our manufacturing capabilities and materials science, they'll share their biotechnology and ecosystem management knowledge. The immediate goal would be to redesign our mining operations to work with rather than against the planetary biological networks. Dr. Wright raised a crucial question. What about the sabotage incidents? How do we know cooperation is actually possible if there are factions among the Zephyrians who oppose human presence? Through the mental link, Marcus felt the twins' determination to address this concern directly. They began a complex communication that took several minutes to convey fully. Shimmerwind and Starweaver have been in contact with the Zephyrian individuals responsible for the sabotage, Marcus explained. They're willing to meet directly with human representatives to discuss their concerns, but they need evidence that cooperation is genuine and not just a delay tactic while humans prepare military responses. Commander Williams nodded grimly. That's a reasonable concern from their perspective. They've seen our mining operations cause massive environmental damage, and now we're claiming we want to cooperate. They need proof of good faith. The solution emerged from Dr. Vasquez's practical experience with biotechnology development. We establish a pilot project, she suggested. One mining site redesigned using hybrid technology, with Zephyrian specialists working directly with our engineers. If the approach succeeds, it becomes the model for all future operations. If it fails, we evaluate what went wrong and adjust accordingly. Wisdom practical approach acceptable risk, the twins communicated approvingly. Director Chen was calculating costs and benefits with the rapid analysis that had made her successful in corporate management. Timeline and resource requirements. Marcus consulted with the twins through their mental link before responding. 6 months for initial implementation, with preliminary results available within 3 months. The Zephyrians can provide most of the biotechnology components, while we supply the manufacturing infrastructure and technical expertise. The discussion shifted to formal negotiations, with legal experts joining the conference to address the unprecedented challenge of creating binding agreements between species with completely different social and technological frameworks. Marcus found himself serving as cultural interpreter, helping both sides understand concepts and concerns that didn't translate easily across the species barrier. Hours passed as the framework for cooperation took shape. The Zephyrians would provide biotechnology and ecological expertise, while humans offered manufacturing capabilities and materials science knowledge. A joint research facility would be established with shared governance, and all resulting technologies would be available to both species. More importantly, the agreement included provisions for expanding cooperation beyond the immediate mining concerns. Joint exploration of other worlds, shared scientific research, and cultural exchange programs that could benefit both civilizations for generations to come. Hope future together species learning growing, Shimmer Wind and Star Weaver communicated as the negotiations neared conclusion, their mental voices harmonizing in a way that conveyed profound satisfaction. As the formal agreements took shape, Marcus realized that his simple decision to help two injured aliens had indeed changed the course of history. But, more than that, it had demonstrated something fundamental about humanity that even he hadn't fully appreciated. Given the opportunity and proper information, humans were capable of choosing cooperation over domination, mutual benefit over short-term advantage. Understand now why trust placed correctly humans capable growth change, the twins communicated, and Marcus felt their deep respect for the species that had surprised them with its capacity for wisdom and adaptation. The first formal interspecies cooperation agreement in human history was about to be signed, and Marcus Chen, mining technician turned diplomatic pioneer, had played the crucial role in making it possible. But, as he looked ahead to the months and years of cooperation that would follow, he knew the real work was just beginning. 6 months later, Marcus stood on an observation platform overlooking the most remarkable industrial site in human history. Where massive excavation scars had once torn through the landscape, a living ecosystem now thrived while simultaneously producing refined minerals at unprecedented efficiency levels. Towering biological structures that seemed part plant, part machine stretched toward the sky, their surfaces shimmering with the same iridescent quality that characterized Zephyrian technology. The joint research facility had exceeded everyone's expectations. Human and Zephyrian scientists worked side by side in laboratories that were themselves living organisms, equipped with biotechnology that could manipulate matter at the atomic level while maintaining perfect ecological harmony. The sight still amazed Marcus, even after months of daily exposure to wonders that challenged everything he thought he knew about the boundaries between technology and biology. Pride Achievement Friendship Bridge built strong, Shimmer Wind and Star Weaver communicated through their mental link, which had evolved over the months into something approaching telepathic conversation. The twins had grown significantly since their first meeting, developing into their adult forms while retaining their roles as cultural liaisons between the two species. Marcus smiled as he watched them gliding through the facility on wings that had healed completely, now enhanced with biotechnological modifications that allowed them to interface directly with the hybrid systems they had helped design. Their transformation from injured refugees to respected scientific colleagues still seemed miraculous to him. The success of the pilot project had transformed human colonial policy throughout the galaxy. Rather than the destructive extraction methods that had characterized early expansion, humanity was now implementing cooperative biotechnology on 12 different worlds, working with indigenous species to develop sustainable resource management systems that benefited everyone involved. Marcus, called a familiar voice from across the platform. Dr. Elena Vasquez approached with her characteristic enthusiasm, a data tablet in one hand and what appeared to be a living computer interface growing from her other palm. The biotechnology integration that Zephyrian science had made possible still amazed him, even after months of daily exposure. "Elena, how are the latest efficiency reports looking?" "Unprecedented," she replied with genuine excitement. "We're extracting 40% more minerals than our original projections while actually improving the local ecosystem health. The Zephyrian approach to materials processing is revolutionizing everything we thought we knew about industrial engineering." Marcus felt deep satisfaction at her words. The joint facility had become a model for human-alien cooperation that was being studied and replicated throughout human space. More importantly, it had proven that humanity could adapt its approach to expansion when presented with better alternatives. Through the mental link, he sensed the approach of other Zephyrians long before he could see them. A delegation of their leaders was arriving for the monthly progress review, including the individual Marcus had been most eager to meet. Stormwing descended from the canopy above, wings glinting with biotechnological enhancements that marked them as a senior engineer. The young Zephyrian who had once conducted sabotage operations against human mining equipment now served as the facility's head of ecological integration, designing systems that supported both species' needs. "Greetings Marcus Friend Protector Bridge Builder," Stormwing communicated as they landed gracefully on the observation platform. "Honor meeting one who chose help over fear." "The honor is mine," Marcus replied through the mental link, still amazed by how natural the telepathic communication had become. Your innovations in biotechnology integration have made all of this possible. What struck Marcus most about Stormwing was how the former saboteur had transformed into one of the most passionate advocates for human-Zephyrian cooperation. Having seen that humans could indeed change their behavior when presented with evidence and alternatives, Stormwing had thrown himself into developing technologies that proved beneficial coexistence was possible. Skepticism past proven wrong humans capable wisdom growth, Stormwing communicated with what Marcus had learned to recognize as Zephyrian humor. Giant Marcus showed truth species can learn. The monthly review meeting brought together the facility's leadership team in the main conference chamber, a living structure that could adapt its configuration to accommodate both human and Zephyrian needs. Marcus served as the chief liaison, helping to facilitate communication and resolve the cultural misunderstandings that still occasionally arose despite months of cooperation. Commander Williams, now promoted to Director of Interspecies Operations, presented the latest expansion proposals. The success of the joint facility had generated requests from 17 different colonies for assistance in implementing cooperative resource management with indigenous species. The applications are expanding beyond mining, Williams reported. We're receiving requests for biotechnology assistance with atmospheric processing, agricultural development, and even space station life support systems. The Zephyrian approach to biological engineering could revolutionize human space travel. Pleasure sharing knowledge helping friends explore stars together, the assembled Zephyrian leadership communicated collectively, their mental voices harmonizing in a way that conveyed deep satisfaction. Dr. Vasquez presented the technical achievements that had emerged from the collaboration. Hybrid biotechnology had produced materials stronger than anything in human engineering, while Zephyrian ecosystem management had enabled the development of self-sustaining life support systems that could operate indefinitely without external inputs. But, the most significant development, she continued, is the cultural exchange program. We're not just sharing technology, we're learning new approaches to science, philosophy, and social organization that are enriching both civilizations. Marcus nodded, thinking of the human students who were studying Zephyrian ecological philosophy while young Zephyrians learned human engineering principles. The exchange program had revealed that both species had much to offer beyond their technological capabilities. Wisdom growth understanding expanding beyond original hopes, Shimmerwind and Star Weaver communicated, expressing the sentiment that Marcus felt deeply. The meeting's most significant announcement came from an unexpected source. A new delegation had arrived from Earth, including representatives from the Colonial Council and the Interstellar Development Authority. They were proposing the establishment of a permanent interspecies cooperation institute that would formalize and expand the collaborative approaches developed at the facility. Director Sarah Chen appeared on the main display screen, her expression showing the kind of focused excitement that Marcus associated with major policy initiatives. The success of your joint facility has convinced the Colonial Council that cooperative development is not just morally superior to traditional extraction methods, it's significantly more profitable and sustainable. Marcus felt a surge of pride and vindication. The economic arguments had been crucial in convincing human leadership to embrace cooperation, but the real victory was cultural. Humanity was learning that expansion didn't have to mean domination, that growth could be achieved through partnership rather than conquest. Understanding humans capable choosing wisdom over strength hope future, the Zephyrian leadership communicated collectively, expressing the profound respect that had developed between the species. As the meeting progressed to detailed planning for the expanded cooperation initiatives, Marcus found himself reflecting on the incredible journey that had brought them to this point. 6 months ago, he had been a simple mining technician whose greatest responsibility was operating excavation equipment. Now he was helping to shape interspecies policy that would affect the development of human civilization for centuries to come. The transformation seemed impossible, but Marcus had come to understand that it reflected something fundamental about both species involved. Humans possessed a remarkable capacity for adaptation when presented with compelling evidence and viable alternatives. Zephyrians had shown extraordinary patience and wisdom in working with a species that had initially seemed hostile and destructive. Truth both peoples capable growth understanding choice cooperation over conflict, Shimmerwind and Starweaver communicated, summarizing the profound lesson that their collaboration had taught. As the formal meeting concluded, Marcus joined a smaller gathering of the facility's senior staff for the daily coordination session. These informal discussions had become crucial for addressing the practical challenges of interspecies cooperation and ensuring that both human and Zephyrian concerns were properly addressed. Dr. Vasquez raised an issue that had been growing in importance as the facility's success attracted attention from throughout human space. We're receiving increasing pressure to accelerate technology transfer and implement our approaches on more worlds. The demand is enormous, but I'm concerned about maintaining quality control and proper cultural sensitivity. Stormwing responded with the thoughtful analysis that had made them invaluable as a liaison between species. Wisdom concern rapid expansion risk mistakes damage trust careful approach necessary. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility that came with success. Their cooperation had worked because of careful attention to both species' needs and concerns, patient development of mutual understanding, and willingness to adapt approaches based on experience. Rapid expansion could undermine the very qualities that had made success possible. I propose we establish training programs, Marcus suggested. Human and Zephyrian teams working together to develop expertise in cooperative development methods. Rather than trying to manage everything centrally, we create the knowledge and skills needed for successful cooperation and share them widely. Excellent wisdom teach cooperation expand understanding sustainable growth, the assembled Zephyrians communicated approvingly. The discussion continued into the evening, covering everything from technical protocols to cultural sensitivity training. Marcus found himself serving as translator and mediator, helping both species understand perspectives and concerns that didn't always translate easily across the biological and cultural barriers that separated them. As the gathering finally dispersed, Marcus walked to his favorite observation point overlooking the facility's main production area. The sight never failed to amaze him, biological structures that seemed to grow organically from the landscape while producing refined materials with precision that exceeded anything mechanical systems could achieve. Shimmerwind and Starweaver joined him on the observation platform, their wings catching the light from the facility's bioluminescent systems. The twins had become more than allies or colleagues, they were genuine friends whose perspectives had fundamentally changed Marcus's understanding of what was possible when different forms of intelligence worked together. Reflection, gratitude, friendship changed everything, they communicated, apparently thinking along similar lines. Marcus nodded, feeling the same deep gratitude. I keep thinking about that first day when you came to me for help. I never imagined that choosing to help two injured beings could lead to all of this. Choice help rather than ignore fundamental character humans Zephyrians both capable great kindness, Starweaver responded. Discovery cooperation natural when fear replaced understanding. As Marcus stood watching the facility operate in perfect harmony with its natural surroundings, he understood that they had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. Two completely different forms of intelligence had found ways to combine their strengths while respecting their differences, creating possibilities that neither could have achieved alone. The success had implications far beyond resource extraction or technological development. They had proven that interspecies cooperation was possible, profitable, and mutually beneficial. More importantly, they had demonstrated that choosing to help rather than harm, to cooperate rather than dominate, could lead to outcomes that exceeded anyone's individual capabilities. Future bright possibilities unlimited together species reaching stars, Shimmerwind and Starweaver communicated simultaneously, their mental voices harmonizing in a way that conveyed profound hope and excitement for what lay ahead. Marcus felt the same sense of unlimited possibility. The joint facility was just the beginning. Human biotechnology enhanced with Zephyrian knowledge could enable the development of living spacecraft that could travel between stars while maintaining perfect ecological balance. Zephyrian ecosystem management combined with human engineering could make any world habitable without destroying its natural beauty. As the planet's twin moons rose above the horizon, casting silver light across the thriving facility, Marcus Chen realized that his life had become something he never could have imagined. He was no longer just a mining technician, he was a bridge between civilizations, a pioneer in the most important field of human endeavor, and living proof that individual choices to help and cooperate could indeed change the destiny of entire species. Together future unlimited friendship eternal bridge built will endure, came through the mental link, and Marcus knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, the foundation they had built together would support the growth of both civilizations for generations to come. The giant human who had chosen to help two tiny injured aliens had discovered that the greatest strength of any species was not its size or technology, but its capacity to choose cooperation over conflict, understanding over fear, and mutual growth over individual dominance. In helping the smallest beings he had ever encountered, Marcus had helped his own species take its first steps toward becoming the wise and collaborative civilization that the galaxy desperately needed.